There are moments in life when everything seems to fall silent. The phone stops ringing, invitations dry up, friends drift away, opportunities vanish. You find yourself alone, stripped of the noise and distractions that once filled your days. In these moments, the soul begins to question, have I been forgotten? Have I done something wrong? Why does the world feel so distant? But what if this isolation isn't abandonment? What if it's preparation? The great Sufi mystic Ibn Arabi understood something profound about divine solitude. He taught that when God removes you from the crowd, when He draws you into the wilderness of your own being, it is not to punish you, it is to polish you. The isolation you're experiencing isn't the end of your story. It's the forge where your true self is being shaped, refined, and prepared for a purpose far greater than you can currently comprehend. The nature of divine isolation. Isolation is one of God's most misunderstood tools. In a world that celebrates constant connection, perpetual productivity, and visible achievement, being set apart feels like failure. We live in an age where our worth seems measured by our social media following, our calendar's fullness, and our ability to be everywhere at once. When God pulls us away from all of that, our first instinct is panic. We begin to wonder if we've somehow fallen out of favor. We question whether we've made terrible mistakes that have led us to this lonely place. We look at others who seem to be thriving, surrounded by people, opportunities flowing to them effortlessly, and we feel left behind. The comparison becomes torture. The silence becomes deafening. But here's what Ibn Arabi knew, what mystics and prophets throughout history have understood. God doesn't isolate the forgotten. He isolates the chosen. Think about the great figures of spiritual history. Moses wasn't called from the center of Egyptian society. He was called from the isolation of the desert, tending sheep far from civilization. Muhammad didn't receive his revelation in the bustling markets of Mecca. He received it in the solitude of a cave, away from the noise of humanity. Jesus didn't begin his ministry surrounded by crowds. He first went into the wilderness alone for 40 days and 40 nights. The Buddha achieved enlightenment, not in the palace surrounded by luxury and people, but sitting alone under the Bodhi tree. Joseph was elevated to second in command in Egypt only after years of isolation in prison, forgotten by those he had helped. David was anointed king while still a shepherd, alone in the fields, before he ever faced Goliath or sat on a throne. The pattern is clear and consistent throughout sacred history. Before elevation comes isolation. Before the public ministry comes the private preparation. Before the world sees you, God must first refine you in secret. This isn't coincidence or poetic metaphor. It's the necessary architecture of spiritual transformation. Why God chooses isolation as His method. When God isolates you, He is doing several crucial things simultaneously. First, He is removing you from environments and relationships that would hinder your growth. Sometimes the people we surround ourselves with, even good people, can keep us comfortable in patterns that no longer serve our highest purpose. They may have known us in our old seasons, and their expectations can inadvertently keep us locked in outdated versions of ourselves. Consider how difficult it is to change your habits when you're surrounded by people who expect you to behave in certain ways. If everyone knows you as the person who always says yes, who always puts others first to your own detriment, who always plays small to make others comfortable, then every interaction with them reinforces that identity. They don't mean harm. They simply relate to the version of you they know. God, in His wisdom, knows that you cannot become who you're meant to be, while still trying to be who everyone expects you to be. The isolation creates space for metamorphosis. Like a caterpillar in a cocoon, you must be hidden away during the transformation. The process is too delicate, too sacred to happen in public view. If the caterpillar tried to transform while still crawling among the other caterpillars, the process would be interrupted, contaminated, perhaps even impossible. Second, God uses isolation to strip away dependencies that have become crutches. Many of us have learned to find our identity, validation, and security in external sources, other people's approval, professional success, social status, romantic relationships, financial abundance, physical appearance. These things aren't necessarily bad in themselves, but when they become the foundation of our sense of self, they're unstable. God must sometimes remove them so we learn to find our foundation in Him alone. This stripping away is painful. It feels like loss, like death, like everything that made life worth living is being taken away. But it's actually the removal of false securities that were always going to fail us, eventually. God is teaching you that your worth doesn't come from being needed, being seen, being successful, or being surrounded. Your worth is inherent, given by your Creator, unchangeable, regardless of circumstance. Imagine building a house on sand. It might stand for years and you might never question its foundation until the storm comes. God's isolation is like the storm that reveals which foundations are solid and which are sand. He allows the external supports to be removed, not to watch you fall, but to show you what needs to be rebuilt on rock instead of sand. Third, isolation is where God can speak to you without competition. In the noise of everyday life, with its endless demands and distractions, His voice gets drowned out. We become so accustomed to the static that we forget what clarity sounds like. We're constantly bombarded with opinions, advertisements, social expectations, urgent emails, breaking news, social media notifications, all of it creating a cacophony that makes it nearly impossible to hear the still, small voice within. Isolation turns down the volume on everything else, so you can finally hear what He's been trying to tell you all along. In this quiet, you begin to hear truths about yourself, both uncomfortable and liberating. You confront patterns you've been running from. You recognize wounds you've been ignoring. You acknowledge fears you've been masking with busyness. And simultaneously, you discover strengths you never knew you had, gifts that were buried under obligations, and a voice that was silenced by trying to fit in. The silence of isolation is not empty. It's full of revelation, full of possibility, full of God's presence. But you can only perceive this fullness once the noise stops. The stages of isolation. Isolation typically unfolds in stages, each with its own character and challenges. Understanding these stages can help you navigate the journey with more grace and less resistance. The first stage is shock and denial. When isolation first begins, when friends stop calling or opportunities dry up, the initial response is often disbelief. This can't be happening. This is temporary. Things will go back to normal soon. You might frantically try to reconnect, to force doors open, to manufacture the connections and opportunities that used to come naturally. This stage is characterized by anxiety and a desperate attempt to return to what was. The second stage is grief and anger. As it becomes clear that the isolation isn't temporary, that something fundamental has shifted, grief sets in. You mourn the loss of what was, the relationships, the sense of belonging, the identity you held, the future you had planned. Alongside grief comes anger. Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? Why do others get to move forward while I'm stuck here alone? This anger might be directed at God, at yourself, at others, or at life itself. The third stage is resistance and bargaining. You begin negotiating with God, with yourself, with the universe. If I just do this, if I change that, if I work harder, pray more, become better, then the isolation will end. You might throw yourself into self-improvement projects, hoping to earn your way out of the wilderness. Or you might withdraw entirely, giving up hope that anything will ever change. Both responses are forms of resistance to what is. The fourth stage is acceptance and surrender. This is where the real transformation begins. You stop fighting the isolation and start accepting it as your current reality. You release your grip on how you think things should be and open your hands to receive what is. This doesn't mean you like the isolation or that the loneliness stops hurting. It means you stop exhausting yourself trying to escape it and instead ask, what is this season trying to teach me? The fifth stage is integration and growth. Having accepted the isolation, you now begin to work with it rather than against it. You see it as sacred space rather than punishment. You use the solitude intentionally for healing, learning, creating, deepening. You discover that isolation, while painful, is also surprisingly rich. Insights emerge. Creativity flows. Your relationship with yourself and with God deepens in ways that weren't possible in the noise. The final stage is emergence and revelation. This is when the isolation naturally comes to an end because the work it was meant to accomplish is complete. Doors begin opening, connections form, opportunities appear. But you're different now. You're not trying to get back to who you were before the isolation. You're stepping into who you became because of it. Not everyone moves through these stages linearly. You might cycle through them multiple times, or experience several simultaneously, but understanding the journey can help you locate yourself within it and trust that where you are, however difficult, is part of a larger process. The transformation within the wilderness. The wilderness season, this time of isolation, is where transformation happens at the deepest level. It's not comfortable, it's not quick, but it's absolutely necessary. During this time, God is working on multiple dimensions of your being. He's healing your emotional wounds, the ones you've carried for years, perhaps even decades. The hurts from childhood, the betrayals that left scars, the disappointments that taught you to protect your heart, the traumas you've tried to outrun through achievement or distraction. All of these must be addressed before you can step into your purpose with wholeness. Isolation forces you to stop running. When you're busy, surrounded by people and activities, it's easy to stay distracted from inner pain. But in solitude, there's nowhere to hide. The pain you've been avoiding rises to the surface, demanding attention. This is uncomfortable, but it's also the beginning of healing. You can't heal what you won't feel. God uses isolation to create the conditions where feeling becomes unavoidable. He's also restructuring your thinking, the limiting beliefs that have held you back, the lies you've accepted about yourself, the false narratives about what's possible for your life. These must be dismantled and replaced with truth. This cognitive reconstruction happens slowly, through revelation after revelation, as you sit in God's presence and allow His truth to override the world's programming. Maybe you've believed you're not enough, not smart enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough. Maybe you've believed your past disqualifies you from your future. Maybe you've believed that success requires compromise of your values, or that being spiritual means being poor, or that you must choose between authenticity and acceptance. Isolation gives God space to dismantle these lies brick by brick and rebuild your mental architecture on truth. Your character is being refined. The impatience, the pride, the need for control, the fear-based reactions, the defensive patterns, the ways you've manipulated or people-pleased to get your needs met. Isolation exposes all of these. When there's no one else to blame, no external circumstances to point to, you must face yourself honestly. This confrontation with your own shadows is uncomfortable, but it's where real growth happens. You can't change what you won't acknowledge, and isolation forces acknowledgement. You might discover aspects of yourself that shock you, the anger you didn't know you were carrying, the entitlement lurking beneath your generosity, the fear masquerading as wisdom, the pride hidden in your humility. These discoveries are gifts, though they don't feel like it at the time. God is showing you the truth about yourself, not to shame you, but to free you. What you see, you can address. What you acknowledge, you can transform. Your faith is being deepened. When external supports are removed, you discover whether your faith was in God or in the systems and people you thought were secure. Many people discover during isolation that their faith was more theoretical than actual. They believed in God's provision when the paycheck was steady, but isolation reveals whether they trust Him when resources seem scarce. They believed in God's faithfulness when surrounded by supportive community, but isolation tests whether they trust Him in loneliness. This testing isn't cruel, it's clarifying. God wants you to know beyond any doubt that He is enough. Not God plus a successful career, not God plus a romantic relationship, not God plus social approval, just God. When you emerge from isolation with this truth burned into your soul, you become unshakable. The world's instabilities can't destabilize you anymore because your foundation is solid. Your purpose is being clarified. In the busyness of life, it's easy to confuse activity with purpose, to mistake what you're good at for what you're called to let others' expectations define your path. Isolation strips away these confusions. In the silence, you begin to hear your true calling, not the voice of obligation or ambition or fear, but the authentic whisper of divine purpose. This calling might surprise you. It might be completely different from what you've been doing. Or it might be a deeper, truer version of what you've already been doing, stripped of the ego and performance that had contaminated it. Either way, isolation gives you the clarity to see it and the courage to claim it. The lessons of sacred solitude. In isolation, you learn lessons that can't be taught any other way. These lessons become the foundation of your revealed life, the wisdom you'll carry into whatever comes next. You learn self-sufficiency that doesn't become arrogance, the ability to be alone without being lonely, to enjoy your own company, to find peace in silence. This is crucial because if you can't be at peace with yourself, you'll always be looking for external sources to fill internal voids. You'll enter relationships from neediness rather than wholeness, pursue opportunities from desperation rather than discernment, and remain forever dependent on circumstances to determine your emotional state. Isolation teaches you that you are enough company for yourself, that you can enjoy a meal alone, take a walk alone, spend an evening alone without feeling like something is missing. This doesn't mean you don't value connection. It means you're no longer enslaved by the need for it. You become someone who wants company rather than someone who needs it, and that distinction changes everything about how you relate to others. You learn discernment. When the noise quiets, you become more sensitive to what's true and what's false. You develop the ability to recognize God's voice versus the voice of ego, fear, or cultural conditioning. You learn to distinguish between opportunities that look good and opportunities that are actually aligned with your purpose. You develop an inner compass that remains steady, regardless of external pressures. This discernment will serve you immensely when you re-enter the world, protecting you from distractions and detours. You'll be able to say no to good things in order to say yes to great things. You'll recognize manipulative people and situations before getting entangled. You'll trust your gut when something feels off, even if you can't explain why. Isolation sharpens these instincts because it removes the noise that usually drowns them out. You learn patience. Nothing in isolation happens quickly. There's no instant gratification, no quick fixes, no shortcuts. You must sit with discomfort. You must wait for God's timing. You must trust the process even when you can't see progress. Day after day passes with no apparent change, no dramatic breakthrough, no clear sign that the isolation is ending. And still, you must wait. This patience is essential preparation, because the purpose God is preparing you for will require sustained endurance, not just bursts of motivated action. The world needs people who can stay faithful through the mundane middle, who can keep showing up when results aren't immediate, who can trust the process when the outcome is still unclear. Isolation trains you in this kind of patient persistence. You learn authenticity. When there's no audience to perform for, you stop performing. The masks come off. The pretense dissolves. You discover who you are when you're not trying to be anything for anyone. This authentic self is what the world needs from you. Not another polished persona, but a real human being who has wrestled with God and emerged transformed. In isolation, you can't fake it. There's no one to impress, no image to maintain, no expectations to meet. You face yourself as you truly are, the good, the bad, the broken, the beautiful, all of it. And in accepting yourself as you are, you learn to stop apologizing for your existence and start inhabiting it fully. You learn compassion. Your own suffering in isolation gives you empathy for others who are suffering. You'll never again dismiss someone's loneliness as weakness or their struggle as lack of faith. You'll recognize isolation as a sacred season, and you'll be able to speak life into others who are walking the path you once walked. Having been broken open yourself, you develop tenderness toward others' brokenness. You lose your judgmental edge. You stop comparing your highlight reel to others' behind-the-scenes struggles. You become someone who can sit with others in their pain without trying to fix it, who can offer presence rather than advice, who can witness suffering without needing to explain it away. You learn creativity. Isolation strips away external validation and forces you to create for its own sake. If you're an artist, you create without knowing if anyone will ever see it. If you're a writer, you write without knowing if anyone will ever read it. If you're a musician, you make music without applause. This purifies your creative impulse, separating what you do for love from what you do for recognition. Many people discover depths of creativity during isolation that they never accessed when they were busy performing for audiences. Freed from the pressure to please or impress, the authentic creative voice emerges. What you create in solitude often becomes your most powerful work because it's not contaminated by the need for approval. You learn resilience. Isolation is hard. Day after day of loneliness, uncertainty, and silence tests your capacity to endure. But in enduring, you discover you're stronger than you thought. You survive what you thought would break you. You make it through days you weren't sure you could face. And each day you survive builds your confidence that you can handle whatever comes next. This resilience isn't about becoming hard or closed off. It's about developing a deep-rooted strength that remains flexible, that can bend without breaking, that can be wounded without being destroyed. It's the difference between rigidity and resilience, between brittleness and flexibility. The preparation for revelation. All of this, the stripping away, the refining, the lessons, the transformation, is preparing you for revelation. Not revelation in the sense of information downloaded from heaven, though that may be part of it. Revelation in the sense that you will be revealed to the world. The authentic, refined, purpose-filled version of yourself that has been cultivated in secret will be brought into the light. This revelation happens in God's perfect timing, not yours. You may feel ready before the door opens. You may grow impatient with the wait, convinced that you've learned everything the isolation has to teach you, that you've been transformed enough, that it's time to emerge. But God knows exactly when you're prepared, not just for the opportunity, but for the responsibility that comes with it. Premature revelation leads to premature pressure that can crush what hasn't been fully formed. Think of a baby born too early. The lungs aren't fully developed, the immune system isn't ready. The body can't regulate its own temperature. Similarly, being revealed before you're ready can expose you to pressures and responsibilities you're not yet equipped to handle, potentially damaging both you and those you're meant to serve. God protects you from premature revelation by keeping you hidden until the appointed time. This protection is an act of love, though it doesn't feel like it when you're desperate for the isolation to end. He's not withholding from you. He's withholding for you, keeping you safe until you're truly ready for what's next. When the time comes, the revelation won't be subtle. Doors that were previously closed will swing open. Connections that seemed impossible will form effortlessly. Resources that were scarce will suddenly become available. Opportunities will multiply. People will notice you, not because you're marketing yourself more effectively, but because there's something different about you. A depth, a clarity, an authenticity that draws others. This isn't about fame, though your platform may grow. It's not about wealth, though your resources may increase. It's about influence, the sacred responsibility to impact others with what you've learned, to light the path for those who are still in their wilderness, to demonstrate that isolation isn't the end, but the beginning. The gifts that were germinating in secret will suddenly find their audience. The wisdom gained in solitude will become exactly what others need to hear. The strength built alone will become the foundation for building with others. Everything you thought was being wasted in isolation will prove to have been essential preparation. Your message will carry weight because it's been forged in the fire of real experience. You won't be sharing theory or repeating what you've heard. You'll be offering testimony, bearing witness to what God can do in the hidden places. People will recognize the authenticity because it can't be faked. They'll know you've been where they are, that you understand, that your hope isn't naive optimism, but tested faith. Walking through your wilderness. If you're currently in a season of isolation, recognize it for what it is. Not punishment, but preparation. God hasn't forgotten you, He's focusing on you. He's not distancing Himself from you. He's drawing you closer, removing the distractions that kept you from true intimacy with Him. Don't try to rush the process. Don't force your way back into spaces God has intentionally removed you from. Don't manufacture opportunities to escape the discomfort of solitude. Trust that this season has purpose, even when, especially when, you can't see it. Use this time intentionally. Dive deep into prayer and meditation. Study the wisdom traditions that resonate with your soul. Read the books you never had time for. Explore the creative projects that have been calling you. Journal your revelations, your struggles, your questions. Let yourself feel the full range of emotions without judgment. Cry when you need to cry. Rest when you need to rest. Create when inspiration strikes. Be gentle with yourself while also being honest with yourself. Develop practices that ground you. Maybe it's a morning routine of silence and reflection. Maybe it's evening walks where you process the day. Maybe it's weekly fasting or daily exercise or regular artistic expression. These practices become anchors that help you navigate the uncertainty of isolation with some sense of structure and stability. Stay open to what God is trying to show you. The lessons of isolation are often uncomfortable because they require us to face truths we've been avoiding. Don't run from the discomfort. Sit with it. Examine it. Ask God what He's trying to reveal through it. The resistance you feel to certain revelations is often a sign that those are exactly the ones you most need to hear. Resist the temptation to compare your journey to others. Social media makes this particularly difficult. Everyone else seems to be thriving while you're struggling through the wilderness, but you're not seeing their full story. You're comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reel. And even if they truly are in a different season, that doesn't mean your season is wrong. Different people have different timelines. Your isolation doesn't mean you're behind. It means you're exactly where you need to be for what God is preparing you for. Remember that isolation is temporary. This is a season, not your permanent state. The wilderness has boundaries. The cocoon will eventually break open. The silence will give way to symphony. But the timing belongs to God, not to you. Your job isn't to determine when it ends. Your job is to be present and teachable while it lasts. The promise of emergence. Ibn Arabi's wisdom holds a profound promise. When God isolates you, He is about to reveal you to the world. This "about to" doesn't necessarily mean tomorrow or next week. In divine timing, "about to" might mean months or even years of preparation. But the promise stands. This isolation is not your destination. It's your preparation for destiny. When you emerge, and you will emerge, you'll understand why everything had to happen the way it did. The timing that seemed so wrong will prove to have been perfect. The losses that felt so devastating will reveal themselves to have been necessary clearings. The loneliness that nearly broke you will prove to have been the very thing that made you. You'll look back on your isolation not with bitterness, but with gratitude. You'll recognize it as the most formative season of your life, the time when you truly became yourself, the period when your purpose crystallized from vague longing into clear calling. You might not want to repeat it, but you won't regret it either, because you'll see clearly how necessary it was. And when others ask you how you changed, how you found your path, how you developed such clarity and strength, you'll be able to tell them the truth. God isolated you to reveal you. He removed you from the crowd to prepare you for your calling. He took you through the wilderness to show you the promised land. The world is waiting for who you're becoming. And when God brings you forth, when the revelation happens, it will be undeniable. Your light will shine not because you learned to perform better, but because the isolation burned away everything false and left only truth. People won't just see your success, they'll see your substance. They'll witness not just what you do, but who you've become. Your emergence will give hope to others who are still in their isolation. They'll look at you and think, if they made it through, maybe I can too. Your story will become a light in someone else's darkness, proof that the wilderness doesn't last forever, evidence that God really does use isolation as preparation for revelation. Trust the isolation. Embrace the preparation. Your revelation is coming. The caterpillar doesn't know it's becoming a butterfly. It only knows the darkness of the cocoon, the discomfort of dissolution, the mystery of transformation. But dissolution is not destruction, it's reconstruction. What felt like an ending is actually a beginning. And when the butterfly finally emerges, no one questions whether the time in the cocoon was wasted. It was essential. It was everything. So it is with you.